I moved from a desk job to creating a real estate empire and having financial freedom. I want the same thing for you. Welcome to the Real Estate Mentor Show. I'm your host, Toby Brown. I've been in real estate over 16 years and I'm the founder and CEO of the Brown Group, a full-service real estate firm. Did you know that 90% of all millionaires own real estate? This could be you. Create generational wealth through real estate investments. Let's do this. Hi, welcome to episode 1 of the Real Estate Mentor Show. I am your host, Toby T.B. Brown. I am super duper excited to have my first podcast show, the Real Estate Mentor. So the big question, right? Why am I doing this podcast? I'm doing this podcast for several reasons. One is I follow a lot of podcasts, and I've actually been a guest on several podcasts, and I thought it would be so cool to have my own podcast to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, and that's real estate. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to address the problem in real estate is that there aren't a lot of people on the front lines giving real world, transparent information on how to grow a real estate business. I've been in real estate for over 16 years, and I feel like I have a lot to offer to a lot of up and coming real estate investors, as well as those just trying to get out of the rat race of a 9-to-5 job. So why should you listen to the show? Well, again, if you have a job and you feel like that's not what you want to do for the rest of your career, if you have an interest in real estate, if you're already in real estate and you're not quite getting to the next level, you're not equipped with the tools and resources and the knowledge, you don't have a mentor to help guide and coach you to get to that next level, that's why you should listen to this show. So out of this show, I hope to deliver real world, transparent content that you can use to help you in your real estate career or to even get started in real estate. So a little bit about me. I'm from a small town in Parkdale, Arkansas. Very small town, famously known for having only 3 streets. My parents had me at a very young age, at the age of 16. We grew up in an economically challenged, low income environment. But we all supported each other. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. And I had a lot of support from my grandparents who helped raise me as well while my parents were in school. We were fortunate enough to be able to migrate to Oklahoma City when I was 10 years old. And I was very excited about that. But at the same time, I was nervous because it was a big transition for me, right? Going from a small town to this big city and integrating into a predominantly Caucasian school where I was used to being around African Americans, in school. So it was a big change for me. Coming from a low income environment to a middle class environment, and trying to make those adjustments, trying to get used to being around a different demographic, different races, things like that. It was a big challenge for me. And I struggled early on with that. And I tried to communicate some of that stuff to my parents, but they didn't quite understand, right? Because they had their own struggles growing up, and so their job, which they did a very good job at doing, was to put me in a better environment and to give me things that they didn't have growing up. So I'm very thankful for that, even though I didn't understand a lot of it growing up as a kid. So nevertheless, I was able to graduate from high school and get a basketball scholarship for college, since I was very good in basketball. I was an athlete. And my first year in college, I have to be honest with you, like a lot of us, you go to college and the intent is to go there to learn and have a little bit of fun. Well, I went and I had a lot of fun, right? So much fun that it took my focus away from school and it took my focus away from basketball. So all the things that I didn't get to do in high school that my parents wouldn't let me do because they wanted to shelter me and in a sense protect me. When I got to college, I was independent. I was on my own. I didn't have a curfew. Nobody tell me when to come, when to go. I went buck wild. It was all about fun. So after the first year, I dropped out. I went back home, and I just wanted to run the streets and have fun, man. And I ended up linking up with, at the time, I thought was a fun group, but it ended up being the wrong group. Ended up trying to, make a quick buck, got involved with selling drugs. Thought I wanted to be a small-time drug dealer. I wanted to hustle and chase my ambitions of growing and making money and driving nice cars and all that stuff. And it didn't last long. In fact, it ended pretty shortly. After a year of being out on my own and running the streets, I ended up getting busted. My front door was kicked in my apartments. The federal agents raided my apartment. They found drugs. I was arrested, went to jail, and it was the most terrifying experience of my life. Like, I thought like everything was over, like at that moment, right? And the first day I remember going in front of the judge, my first hearing, the prosecution said they were recommending 20 years to life for me. I'm like, I'm just a 19-year-old kid. Like, this is my first time being in trouble ever in my life. And you want to offer me 20 years in jail? Like, I can't do 20 years. So all the toughness and the ego and the nothing's gonna break me type image, that all went out the window. I turned into that same baby boy from Parkdale, Arkansas, 10 years old. I turned back into that little kid at that moment. Just frustrated, disappointed. I had let everyone down in my family, and I just thought my life was over. So I sit in jail for about 3 weeks. Finally, my parents got me out, and I'm just sitting at home and just thinking, like, how am I gonna get out of this? What am I gonna do to get out of this situation? And fortunate enough for me, my old high school basketball coach had heard about my situation, and he paid me a visit one day, and he said, man, I can't let you go down this path. Like, I'm gonna try to help you. I happen to be really, really good friends with one of the prosecutors, and I'm gonna go talk to them on your behalf, because I don't wanna see you go down this road like a lot of other young African-American men that get caught up in the legal system and they never make it out. So I'm gonna try to help you. And he did that. He went and talked to the prosecutors, and they worked out a deal where they decided to give me basically a second chance. I was sentenced to 6 months in jail, and I had to go through this boot camp. At the time, they called it RED. It was basically a boot camp for troubled kids, first-time offenders, and I had to complete 6 months of RED, and I was placed on 5 years. I got a 5-year deferred sentence, which is basically 5 years of probation. So I couldn't have not one slip up. When I say not one. They were very clear. If you do anything, I mean, you barely get a speeding ticket, you're gonna be back in front of me. That's what the judge told me. And I was just super duper like paranoid. Like, oh my goodness, like I can't screw up. I can't make one mistake. So what did I do? I changed my entire circle, my entire surroundings. I cut off all my old friends. I established new relationships. One of the other requirements for me was that I had to get back in school, and I had to graduate, and I had to get a job. So I had to work and I had to go to school. So I immediately got back enrolled in school. I got a job, and basically I just started rebuilding my life at that point. I started rebuilding my life. I started rebuilding my relationships with my family members that I had let down by going down this dark path. And that's kind of where it started for me. My first job, I started working at a barbershop, cutting hair. I started out actually sweeping the floors, and I eventually graduated to being a barber. And so I started cutting hair, and I was going to school, cutting hair in the daytime, and I was going to school at nighttime. And that's where it started for me. And slowly I was able to start rebuilding my life. I ended up graduating with an associate's degree. I ended up getting a job, a better job at an insurance company. I was making, I think, $13 an hour. So as I began to make better choices in my life, opportunities started to present themselves, and slowly my life started to turn into a more positive direction. So that gave me confidence that doing the right thing, living the right way, making the right choices was going to yield positive results for me. And, so that's kind of where it started for me, and I stayed on that path. I end up graduating again with a bachelor's degree from Southern Nazarene University. I end up getting a better job at a telecommunications company, making $20 an hour. So I was making $20 an hour. I graduated with a bachelor's degree. And fortunate for me, the job that I had, they had an educational reimbursement program. So they said that they would fund my postgraduate degree. So I went back to school, got a master's degree. The company paid for it. So man, I'm just like thanking God for giving me a second opportunity in life and just really allowing me to turn my life around. Now it didn't come easy. It was a lot of hard work. I had to stay out of trouble. I had to make better choices, and I had to commit. I knew that I had to be successful. And so that was the point in my life where I really, made the decision that this is the direction that I want to go, right? I want to be something in life. I want to set an example. I don't want to just get my second chance and live an average life. I want to be super, super duper successful so that I can be an example for those after me that may go through a similar situation. So I committed to success at that point, right? I committed to success beyond just having a job, beyond just having a degree. I committed to being successful on a much higher level. And so as I'm working this job, I have been there over 10 years at this point. It dawned on me that in order for me to really go to the next level and be successful, I had to really start chasing my real dreams, which I've always had, which was to be an entrepreneur and have my own business and to work for myself. And so that's when I started to look at other different avenues of being an entrepreneur. And I eventually decided to get my real estate license so that I could, one, supplement my income, but also I wanted to see if it could be an avenue for me to break away from having a job, a 9-to-5 job, working for someone else. So I got my real estate license. I started selling real estate part-time while working at the same time. And I immediately fell in love with it. I immediately developed this real passion for real estate. I love being able to meet new people. I love the thrill of the deal. I love the flexibility of having my own schedule, being able to really just control my own destiny. That's what I fell in love with. So I saved up 6 months worth of expenses, and I put in my 2 weeks notice at my job, and I left and I went full steam ahead in real estate. And that's kind of how my real estate career got started. I kept selling, for about another year. I was selling properties as a real estate agent. And then it dawned on me again that, in order for me to really grow this into a business versus just being a real estate agent, working for myself, because if I don't go out and sell properties, then I don't eat, right? And I didn't like that because it's kind of like, well, yeah, I left corporate America, I left working for someone else, and now I'm just kind of working for myself. I've just basically just created another job for myself. So I didn't really like that. So I said, I got to figure out a way to turn this into a business. So I started looking into real estate investing, right? And I started to kind of run the numbers, and I say, oh, this is interesting. If I can buy homes, single family homes, and I can get them to cash flow, get the rent to come, more rent coming in than I have going out, if I can duplicate that on a massive scale, then I can turn that into a business. And so I wrote out a full-blown business plan for my investment company at that time. And I just started to do my research. I started to collect data, and I started to really channel my focus towards the real estate investing side. And I remember one day I was sitting at home, it was on a Sunday, and I was reading the Sunday paper, and there was an article in the real estate section about a sheriff's sale auction where they were going to be auctioning off foreclosure properties. And I think the sale was 2 weeks out, and it had a list of all these homes on there. And I said, wow, I'm gonna just go to this auction just to kind of out of curiosity to see how it works, right? So I'm there at the auction, and I remember the second property on the bid, they announced the starting bid was like $3,000. And I was like, $3,000? Like, that's gotta be it can't be right. It's like $3,000 for a house. So I looked at the address, and the address was legitimate. I was like, I know that area. I was like, $3,000. So I just bid on it. It's like $3,000. I'll take it. And somebody else bid, and somebody else bid, and bid started going and going and going. It got all the way up to $7,000, and I bid on it, $7,000. And then it stopped, and it got quiet. And it's going once, going twice. So $7,000 to the gentleman in the fourth row, and I was like, yeah, I got it. And so I left there. I was smiling. On my way out, the attorney for the plaintiff, which was the bank that was foreclosing on, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, make sure that you have the $7,000 paid by this date, which was like 10 days out. He said that's when the confirmation hearing is. You need to have the $7,000 paid by that date. And I was like, okay, no problem, man. I'll get it done, whatever. So I remember driving home, and I was smiling, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, I don't have $7,000. Like, where am I gonna get $7,000 from? So I got home, and I started looking through my finances and looking at all the stuff I got. I was like, man, I scraped all the crumbs together. I went to my little piggy bank. I went everywhere. I was like, man, I'm nowhere close to $7,000. So I'm just sitting there thinking what I'm gonna do. So my initial thought was to kind of pick up the phone and start calling some family members and friends and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that because I don't want to drag somebody else into this risk that I'm taking. Like, this is something I put myself in. I don't want to bring nobody else in it because I'm new. I don't have no experience. I don't know what I'm doing here. So I won't pull nobody else into that situation. So I remember sitting there, and I had I opened up my wallet, and all I had was my driver's license. I had one debit card, and I had a credit card. And I said, you know what? I wonder if the court will take a credit card, because I had my credit card had a $10,000 limit on it. And I said, well, I wonder if the court would take a credit card. So I called down to the courthouse, and I said, yeah, I want to make a payment on an auction property. I was wondering if you guys would take a credit card over the phone. I was like, no, sir, we don't take no credit card. It has to be certified funds, which basically means cash. So I said, okay, thank you. So I hung up. I called a credit card company. I said, I need to get some cash on this credit card. Is that possible? And the lady was like, yeah, you can take a cash advance on your credit card all the way up to the credit limit, which was $10,000. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, great. I said, well, what's the interest rate? She's like, oh, it's 29.9% or something. I was like, shit, 29.9%? I'll take it. So long story short, I took a cash advance on my credit card, went downtown to the courthouse, paid the $7,000. I was a proud owner of a 3-bed, 2-bath piece of shit property. It was a dump. I remember going by there, and I said to myself, man, what have I got myself into? The house was filthy, it had mold, it smelled. I think there was some hoarders that lived there at some point in time, but the property had been vacant probably at least 3 years. And so I'm like, how am I going to turn this property around? What am I going to do? And I just started going one piece at a time, cleaning the property out. I called an old friend of mine. He came by, started helping me clean it out. Started to get rid of the mold and things like that. And I just started to recruit friends and stuff to come by and help me start remodeling the property. I didn't really know what I was doing. I would read articles online. I was going to YouTube. I was doing all kind of things to learn about the remodeling process. So long story short, I end up liquidating pretty much everything that I had and poured it into this property, right? And I finally got it into rentable condition. And so I remember at the time I had got a letter in the mail from Chase Bank that said that they were doing refinances on investment properties. So I called them, gave them the address, and they they fit out a loan application. They did an appraisal on the property. I think the property value came in around $40,000. They loaned me $30,000 on the house. So I got all of my money back that I put into it, paid down my credit card, put a little money back in my bank account. I rented the house for $650. I think my payment was like $190 or something like that. And I was like, voila, there it is. Light bulb went off again. I was like, man, I got a cash flow property, and I just need to figure out a way to duplicate that. And so that's how my real estate investing career started. From there, I ended up linking up with another small local community bank, and they approved me up to 8 properties. And slowly but surely, I just started buying properties. I started buying them, and creating that cash flow. And at the same time, learning the business, building relationships with contractors, insurance agents, real estate agents, just really building a network of individuals, as well as building a team of people that can help me with my real estate business. So once I eventually got up to about 30 properties. And I said, okay, I was working from my house at this time. And I said, okay, it's time for me to evolve from my house, because this is getting beyond, a work from home type situation. So I found a little small office, bought an old antique building. I remodeled it, made it to look like a nice, cozy office. I hired a receptionist. And I was off and running, man. I had somebody answering the phones while I went out. I did the leasing, I did the maintenance calls, I did the acquisitions, buying the properties, all of that. I was handling that, and I had somebody answering the phones, and that's how my business really started to take off, right? I started building it just one brick at a time. Eventually, I was able to hire a leasing agent to help me with the leasing. So that took that hat off, and I was able to delegate that responsibility. Eventually, I hired a maintenance technician that can run around and do all the maintenance on my properties. Then I started to build a small remodeling team so that I can have that in-house to do the make-readies on the properties, and to also do the remodeling on the properties when I bought them. So that's how my real estate business evolved. And it wasn't easy. There was a lot of hard lessons that I had to learn, but I had to do it, one brick at a time, one step at a time. And, as I look back on it today, all of the things that I went through, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so glad that I didn't take any shortcuts. I'm so glad that I was able to learn so much through the mistakes that I made. Because it has equipped me today with so much knowledge and so much information to where I can really drive my business forward and make it very successful. So my goal now at this stage in my career is I want to reach out and help other individuals build their real estate investment businesses the same way that I did. Through my experience, through my resources that I have, I feel like I have a lot to offer. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this podcast, so that I can share information with you guys on a weekly basis. The goal for me is to have industry experts on the podcast. I want to bring in other real estate investors. So you're not just hearing from me, you're hearing from other people as well. So you can hear about their experiences. There will be some that are very, very similar. And there will be some other experiences that are not, the same, because everybody has their own journey in real estate. And one of the other most important things for me is to make sure that I reach a lot of the African American males and others in the African American community, because one of the things that we have always been neglected with, and that is generational wealth, right? We've always been in a disadvantage because we do not generate wealth to pass on in our families and to pass on to our kids and our kids' kids. And that's my number one goal for me, is I want to create a legacy for myself, and I also want to leave something for the next generation in my family, so that they have a head start, so that they can take this far beyond what I've been able to do. And that's something that we've always struggled with in the African American community. And I truly believe that real estate investing is the vehicle to create generational wealth. One, because I've been very successful at it myself. And two, I've seen other people be successful at it. 90% of all millionaires in this country have done so through owning some form of real estate. And so it's proven that it is a vehicle to generate wealth. The key is you just got to get in the vehicle, and you got to have the tools and the resources that's going to help you really drive that vehicle to the next level so that you can create generational wealth for you and your family. Let's face it, guys. Hey, listen, I didn't get 40 acres in a mule. And so I had to go out and create that situation. I had to go out and buy property on my own. I had to go out and make my stake in this world. I had to go out and plant my own flag and say, hey, this is my land. This is my property. I'm going to own something, right? And it's going to mean something to me, and it's going to mean something to my family. We're going to eat off of this, not just today, but for years to come. And that's what real estate has been able to do for me. It has given me financial freedom. It has given me security. It has given me more ownership of my time. And that's what you really want in life. I don't care what you do. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an engineer, at the end of the day, everybody wants more ownership of their time. And that's what real estate investing has done for me. Through the passive income that I've been able to create by building a real estate portfolio, it has done wonders for me. And you can do the same thing. I believe you can do the same thing. So my goal with this show is to help you guys build your own real estate portfolio, help you guys generate cash flow, positive cash flow, so that you can get more ownership of your time, so that you can have something to pass on to your kids and your family. That is the key, guys. That's what we all want. We all strive for that. Whether you want to admit it publicly or not, we're all striving for ownership of our time and financial security. That is the key to success and living a fruitful life. And so through this show, I want to help you guys do that. That's why I've created this show. I want to help you create generational wealth for you and your family through real estate investing. So I'm very excited to start this journey with you. I'm very excited about this first show. I'm very excited about the shows to come. This is a momentous occasion for me, because this is something that I've been looking forward to my entire life, being able to have a platform where I can get up and tell my story, share my story, and be an example for other people of what the possibilities are. You know, there's so many different stories you can get from my story. You know, just getting a second chance in life and not taking that for granted and maximizing that and being an example to say, oh, hey, listen, you can give other people second chances in life, Mr. Judge, because look, you gave me one and look what I was able to do, right? So not wasting a second chance, taking advantage of it, and not only taking advantage of it, but becoming very successful with it, right? So now I can show other people how to be successful. I can show other people that what the possibilities are based on what I've been able to do. It's a proud moment, but it's not a boastful moment. It's the simple fact that I want to be an example for you guys, okay? So that's what the show is about. Like I said, I'm very, very excited about it, and I cannot wait to continue to show and share tips on real estate investing, sharing with you guys parts of my business, how I'm growing, how I'm learning, what I'm doing. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to make an investment in yourself. That's one of the biggest keys to my success, is to continue to reinvest in myself time and time again. Like, if you want to grow, you have to invest in yourself. And sometimes this requires you to write a check. Sometimes it requires you to pay. Sometimes it requires you to pay your coach, pay your mentor, pay for that seminar, pay for that webinar, pay for that mastermind class or whatnot. That's what it requires, guys. You have to invest in yourself. And if you do that, I guarantee you will get a return tenfold, right? And let's be honest, the people that pay normally pay the most attention. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of tips and advice for free through my podcast. Hopefully you guys will learn a lot from it. And I just really look forward to growing with you guys together. Like, I'm going to learn a lot from doing this show. Hopefully you will learn a lot for doing this show. And I just cannot wait to grow with you guys. So thank you so much for joining me today. This is TB, the Real Estate Mentor Show, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.